God puts all these, his nature in us, his abilities in us. But we have to be introduced to the consciousness of it. So what I'm saying is that Jesus said, when my enemy is hungry, there's a part of God in me that wants to be released to me to make me a consciousness, to bring a consciousness in me of that ability that's in me. So the only way he can get it out of me is he got to make somebody treat me wrong. So when my enemy is hungry, because he mistreated me, he my enemy. So now when I feed him, I trigger that ability that's hiding inside of me. Now I'm conscious of it. All of a sudden now I'm conscious of it. And every time God allows these events to happen to me and you, and we respond according to Scripture, it triggers our consciousness to that ability, and which prepares me and make me more equipped when it comes the next time. So now I can keep right on feeding my enemy when he's hungry. Why? Because I'm conscious that I have the ability in me to do it. But it takes something to trigger these abilities before I can become conscious of them. You see what I'm saying? In other words, you can't tempt me with cigarettes. I've never smoked cigarettes. Why? So that means I don't have a conscience for it. My body doesn't have a conscience for it. So that means it'll never be a temptation for me. You see what I'm saying? But the minute I smoke a cigarette and I like it, all of a sudden, my conscience has been resurrected to that thing. Now, I'm going to be tempted. Now I got to fight with that temptation because my conscience has been awakened to that. Until your conscience is awakened to something, you don't have a fight with it. And you don't know nothing about it because until you awaken your conscience to it, it don't bother you. People wonder why God said don't sleep around and don't get into fornication, adultery, and all that stuff before you get married. Why do you think God telling you that? Because he don't want you to awaken your conscience in that arena to somebody that you ain't going to be married to. Now, you got to fight with all of these different consciousness that have been awakened to you because your conscience been awakened to these individuals. But if you keep yourself for your spouse, then when you and her interact, that conscience is awakened, you only have a sexual desire for her or him. Now you ain't got to fight with it because why? I haven't awakened my conscience over that. See, this is why God tells us not to do certain things. We think, God, Christian, you can't do this and you can't do that. No, because when you understand this stuff, there's a lot of things that you don't want to do because if you have fought and released yourself from that conscience, don't wake it up.
That's right. That's right.
Don't wake it up. If God has delivered you through that consciousness of that thing, don't go back because you will resurrect that consciousness and your temptation starts all over again. This is real stuff here. This is real stuff. That's why I don't like to send people that got delivered from drugs until they reach a certain level of spiritual maturity. They might not want to subject themselves because until they defeat that consciousness that had them slave to it, they might be drawn back because they get around and they smell it and their conscience kick back in again and the temptation starts all over again. Yeah. Why? Because your conscience been awakened to that. If your conscience had never been awakened to it, it would never be a problem for you. So that's why God tells us, don't do this, don't do certain stuff. He don't want you to awaken your conscience to it because the minute your conscience is awakened to it, it's a reality to you. You can be right around something and don't even have a conscience of it. Did you have conscience of yourself when you was in your mother's womb? You was in her womb, but did you know? See, And everything was in that womb was provided for you. Everything in that womb was provided. You grew. You did everything. Why? But you didn't have no conscience of it. Why? Because you was inside the womb. But watch this. You didn't have no conscience of your environment. So there are things that God growing us up, spiritually empowering us, operating in our lives, and we don't have no conscience of it. That's why some people don't move in the supernatural, because they've never been around it to awaken their conscience to it. Because if you don't get around the supernatural, your conscience will never be aware of it and awaken to it. And once your conscience is not awakened to it, you're stuck with letter. Why do you think Jesus told the disciples when they went out, they did what he did? They was around Jesus. They experienced it all the time. Their conscience was waking to it. So when their conscience was waking to it, it was a reality to them. So when he said do it, their conscience was aware of it, and they knew what the reality of what they were trying to do. If your conscience hasn't been wakened to the supernatural, then you don't, watch this, you don't have no expectation for the supernatural to manifest. Why? Because your conscience don't, just like me, never ate a piece of pizza. I don't miss something I never ate. If I have never eaten a pizza, I have no awareness of what pizza is. But when I eat that nice pepperoni pizza, watch this. All of a sudden, you'll hear me one day say, man, I got a taste for some pizza. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Isn't that right? I got a taste for it. Man, I got a taste for me a nice good slice of pepperoni pizza. You'd have never heard me say that if I had never eaten it. You know what? Well, what's making me say I got a taste for it? My conscience has been awakened to it. You know what? That's why, guys, don't waken your conscience to certain stuff. God ain't trying to shield you. He's trying to protect you, because when your conscience hasn't been wakened to certain things, it'll never be a problem for you.